Hello, friends. This is Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News. Today is August 12th, 2023. As always, information overload out there. Insanity in Hawaii. The fires, it looks like they got bombed out, firebombed or something, but it's wildfires. It's being reported over 50 people killed and like 1,500 missing. As this story develops, we need to pray for the people of Hawaii. It looks like, or now it's up to 80 people is being reported dead. And so we need to pray for those victims over there in Hawaii. It's horrific scenes coming out of there. And then, of course, the United Nations last couple of weeks has declared the era of global boiling. And then, of course, geoengineering. We have a great guest on the line, Jim Lee from climateviewer.com. But before we get to him, support the First Amendment, Second Amendment, all of our inalienable natural rights. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. At the bottom of the screen there, you can see, get yourself a classic white background sticker, a holograph sticker, or one of these clear stickers. You can put it on your laptop, your bumper, your guitar. We had a listener put it on a white guitar. This sticker right here looked really sharp, and so help support the broadcast. You know, we're bringing you independent reporting and analysis here, like few others. Definitely unlike your mainstream corporate media that just continues to lie, spin, and propagandize us into oblivion here now. But so please go to weaponizednews.com/shop. We got books over there, stickers, lapel pins. Help us out. If you don't want to buy any of our merchandise in the shop, you can just give us a donation at weaponizednews.com. In the right-hand corner, there's a donation button. But we would rather just sell you some products and help spread the word about independent journalism, about our broadcast and our work at Weaponized News. Go on there and you can see many different interviews with many different people on a range of subjects. But here today we have Jim Lee from Climate Viewer. I like his name a lot because it's very easy for me to pronounce. Jim Lee, a great American. How are you doing today, Jim?
Doing great, Sam. Want to fight about it? Oh, man. What a crazy times we live in, man.
Crazy times. And now our maiden, I want to announce here, as far as I can tell, our maiden live stream on Facebook. So hello, Facebook. We're on Rockfin, Rumble, Odyssey, Facebook, Twitter, every which way we could possibly blast out the message. And so just loading those up now here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. So, Jim, you said, we talked a little bit before the show, and you said you didn't get much of a chance to look at Hawaii, but it's a freaking war zone over there. This stuff's crazy. Let me play this short video and get your take on this. It literally looks like they dropped bombs, but it's supposedly wildfires that have done this. Here's a short video of some of the carnage. Let me put this up on our screen. This is wild, man. Oh, there we go. And so you can see devastating fires destroying Hawaii there. Pretty wild stuff.
That is crazy.
This is TikTok Daily at Daily Telegram posted this. It looks like a war zone. I mean, we don't even see this much damage coming out of Ukraine-Russia conflict. This stuff's wild. And then, of course, there's reports that that they were stopping people from bringing support to them. The government was there.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like as a person who lived through Hurricane Hugo, you get this whole dynamic where, FEMA and, the government response is, look, we don't want any more loss of life. Oh, the roads are impassable. Don't go in there. No, you're not allowed to try to go save your house. there's a fine line between, you know, your ability to just travel to do what you want or what you need during a national security incident. And once they declare, you know, one of these, you know, incidents, the government can pretty much tell you, no, I don't care what your excuse is. You're not going past here. We've got people in there. As far as I understood it, uh, the U.S. Army was supplying Chinook helicopters. The U.S. Navy was involved. Uh, the Coast Guard, all supplying, you know, firefighting technologies, and you know that runs the gamut from, you know, just dumping water to all types of fire retardant chemicals. Um, so this is one of those weird situations where, you know, you got a hurricane passing just south of, um, and I got a great view of it right here up on the screen.
You're the map guy, the climate viewer. You people need to go to your website because it's very good website there. There you go. Let's throw that up on
So
the screen.
so you can actually see this is starting at August 8th. And what you're going to see is that you've got this massive stream coming in. You got this hurricane passing right below. And you can actually see eddies coming off of this, like almost like lee waves coming off of the main island. And Maui's right up here. Do you see these waves coming in?
Yeah.
Now we're to August 9th. Is at nighttime. And the fires, you know, are burning wildly at this point. But the wind is still, you know, the hurricane's now down here. And as you can see, I mean, that's ripping by. These shots are taken every 10 minutes. But you can actually see the vortices coming off of the island because the wind is whipping that fast. And that the fires are pretty much on, you know, the tail side over here. You know, it's just that's a bad situation all around. Now, whether somebody lit it with, you know, a match or whether, you know, whatever the case was, I always lean towards arson or accident before I go the whole, you know, directed energy weapons route. But this is
I was going to talk about that, Jim. People were posting these supposed, you know, it looks like a beam coming down, and that has been debunked as actually time lapsed photography of rocket launchers, of rocket launches from there. And so people are like,
yeah.
look, they're shooting with lasers from outer space, and then you actually go and look it up, and it's like, no, that actually was. Sorry, guys. Sorry, conspiracy theorists. That's not a direct energy weapon laser from space. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So that's where the Maui Observatory is. And it's on this hilltop, and they have rocket launches near there.
I would
Another
like
one,
it to be, Jim. I mean, it's horrific and scary and everything, but it would be awesome if we captured photos of them shooting a laser from space and causing these fires. But that's just simply not the case here.
I mean, I got pictures of them shooting lasers from space at Maui if you want to see that. You know, literally exactly what, you know, everybody accuses, you know, them of doing, but that doesn't change the fact that here, I'll bring this up real quick. I'm putting together a map real quick of all the crap that's over there at Maui. But I saw this on Twitter, and you know, this is one of those that was just going around. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Social tweet deck.
Here's footage from the Daily Mail. And I've learned, well, the last couple of weeks, Daily Mail, for being a mainstream tabloid, they like to call them, they're doing some the best reporting I've seen out of any mainstream corporate media, the Daily Mail out of UK. And so I'd like to give them credit for that.
So here's your lasers.
Let's see the lasers here.
Bright green laser lines shoot across sky in Hawaii. What caused them? This was February 7th, 2023. And of course, a lot of people are saying that this image is, proof that directed energy weapons started the Maui fire. And I've been seeing this all over Twitter. But this was actually like the cryo something ISAT-2 satellite shooting lasers at the Maui observatory. And let me see if I can just share this tab instead. And we'll go to base map, and I guess I'll make it 3D for fun. And you can actually see this is the Maui observatory. And on top of it is a bunch of freaking laser beams and all that sort of stuff. So this is the Geodes and the Amos lasers. And they've got a whole optics center here. And there's more lasers down here. This is what the actual lasers look like. So a lot of people are, going around about that, but this is the Maui Observatory that they were shooting the lasers at. And a lot of people were sharing that as proof that, clearly there's something going on. We have proof they're shooting lasers to cause these fires. And I'm like, but, the fires happened over here. And those lasers in the picture actually were landing up here on the mountain because they were being captured by instruments. So, I mean, it's always like a, cat and mouse game with trying to catch up, these things as they're going on. Because, people will latch on to any photo and not do any kind of, I don't want you to pretend to be a journalist, but at least, do a Google reverse image search before you go sharing something out there. If you didn't learn from Sandy Hook, then you'll never learn.
And it lends credence to the United Nations, the FDA, all of these government agencies saying there's a massive problem with disinformation. Well, yeah, when you share stupid stuff and you're promoting real fake news and conspiracy theories that are just not true, then you are lending credence to what they are saying, and don't do that.
I fully agree with that. And I think that, especially like I'm already talking about, when I talk about directed energy weapons and I was, reporting on Havana syndrome, the Moscow signal, the China syndrome, where, actual CIA veterans and U.S. officials, State Department officials were being attacked by electromagnetic weapons. They were still saying, oh, we think it might be errant sounds. The moment I heard the story, I said, this is the same story that happened in the 1980s with the Moscow signal and the U.S. ambassadors there. This is happening in Cuba. This is a no-brainer. This is microwave technology. And it was like 6 months later where the Congress finally got their feces consolidated and came to a consensus report that, yes, in fact, CIA officials and State Department officials were harmed by directed energy weapons, which were microwave, and finally admitted that, not only is it happening, but they will compensate, the government officials that were targeted individuals. Now, were they targeted to do harm, or were they just basically in line with spy weapons? So, the idea that you could have these what are called like magnetic resonant cavity, microphones. They have no electronics whatsoever. They're not powered, but you can supply power to the microphone by beaming, electromagnetic radiation at it, and then it will send a signal out, which is caught by a receiver somewhere else. So they could sneak a microphone into, the ambassador's office and be listening to everything going on. Well, anybody between the energy source across the street, the microphone, and the receiver on the other side of the street, they're all getting fried. So there's this fine line between going, well, I get calls from people all the time who say they're targeted individuals. And I go, what do you do that's so important that makes you targeted? Because I literally have a map that has every every one of the spy facilities in the Five Eyes nations. I was interviewed by the NSA on my beach vacation with my family poolside. And, I was later hit with, in my opinion, some form of electromagnetic radiation that made me, it made me dizzy. I had vertigo. I was on the 13th floor of the Hilton. And I heard a voice in my head saying, "You want to jump." And it was at the point that I was literally on the tip of my toes that I said, and I had a memory. I said, after studying these weapons for this long, if someone were to use a voice of God or voice to skull technology on you, how would you know it and how would you defend yourself? And the simplest answer that I could come up with is know thyself. And if you know yourself and you know that you're not suicidal, for the record, I am not suicidal.
Me neither, Jim. That's a wild story. You've been deep. You've been deep to the top of the pyramid there.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, basically, like, we had a 3-hour conversation because I said, my kids were going up to, and my wife were going up to the hotel room, and I said, look, Val Kilmer over there has been staring at my family for the last hour. I'm at least going to go say something. And I walked up to him and I said, so are you a pervert, or which 3-letter agency do you work for? And he immediately started smiling and laughing. And he said, you're Jim Lee, right? And I said, and you are? And he, said, I'm agent so-and-so. And we ended up having a, pretty lengthy debate about why I had these spy facilities on my map. And he said, do you hate the government? I was like, no, I love the government. Then why would you do this? And I'm like, but I did it from my bedroom. I was like, I found this shit on the internet. If I can find this shit on the internet and I have a high school diploma, you think that China and Russia doesn't have this information? So what's the harm? I was like, I had this up before Snowden ever said the first word. I mean, you can go back on my Twitter and you can see me talking about Ozcan Zuckus before there was a Five Eyes. It's Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, UK. Started from the BRUK agreement after during World War II. British, the UK USA agreement, where basically Britain had to give us all of their raw signals intelligence, or we wouldn't save them from certain doom. And that started the signals intelligence sharing between Britain and the UK and America. And it slowly grew into the Five Eyes, which was at the time known as Ozcan Zuckus or Echelon. So when I started this map, I was mapping out Echelon. And then eventually Snowden revelations came out. And then I was like, oh, there's a new name for it. What do I pick? Five Eyes? Do I pick Prism? Whatever. It's all the same thing, but it's the Stone Ghost Network. So I did this lengthy report on what the Stone Ghost Network was, how all of the raw intel went to Israel. And that's when the weird stuff started happening. And then I was proudly shadow banned from 2013 on as a result of that chance encounter. But, you deal with the struggle.
What did this agent of the government? What'd you take away from that? Because that's crazy stuff.
By the time we were done,
they followed you on vacation.
He was agreeing with me by the time we were done, because I have a logic to what I do. I'm not doing this just for shits and giggles. And what I said to him was, well, what do you think about the fact that warrantless mass surveillance is happening? That literally this conversation and everything I do afterwards, that I've been a hacker since I was 15 years old. So I have a little better understanding of how digital technology and security work. And I know how the NSA works, and I know how spycraft works. So I understand that even if you take your battery out of your phone, if you could take your like back in the day, you could take your battery out. Now it's like you literally have to destroy your Samsung or iPhone to get your battery out. But even if you could take that battery out, they can still operate it. They can still turn the microphone on. They can still turn the camera on. You'll never know it's on. It's tracking everything you're doing. They're gathering all this at the Utah data center. Nice shot of the Utah data center, codename Bumble Hive on my map. And I say to the guy, I'm like, well, what do you think about this? And, I turned it on him. And he said, a lot of the old timers are quitting the NSA. He's like, because they feel we've gone too far. What do we hear now? Same thing with the FBI. What's not being talked about? The CIA. But
they're the ones running everything. They're the ones running this global depopulation agenda.
When I looked into, there was this amazing docu-series on Netflix. It's not there anymore, but it was by Oliver Stone called The Untold History of America. And it was probably like 8 to 10 episodes. Every single episode, you could count at least 16 times the letters CIA were referenced. And one of the most telling ones that just really stuck with me was that the CIA funded, in Iran, there wasn't a democratically elected president. And suddenly the CIA funded people to go out in the streets to protest. And that protest turned into a mob mentality, which ended in the overthrow of the democratically elected president. Then they installed their own president, the CIA did, and it was all about oil. It always is. Some good old-fashioned regime change. But very quickly, the Iranian people figured out what was going on, and they threw that guy's ass out. And guess what happened? We ended up with the Ayatollah Khomeini chanting death to America ever since. Why? Because CIA. And if you go to any place around the world, there was like a recent poll, like 67% of the respondents worldwide said, what's the greatest threat to peace in the world? The answer was America.
Yeah. So government, you think that's right? You think us being the global empire, never developing, as was promised by the World Bank, by the International Monetary Fund, we've never developed the third world as was promised. You think all this behavior is correct, government? All you government workers out there, all you agents, whatever you think you are, you think it's cool that to spy on everybody, violate all of our rights? Now they're openly carrying out the global depopulation agenda. And so you think that's right? You think you're above it? You and your family are going to get all these horrible fast-acting cancers, all the rest of this? You think that's right? You think you guys have stepped over the line? Are you just a complete homicidal maniac to serve this evil system?
And I also abhor groupthink and boxes. Like boxes are, at their fundamental root, they are slave speak. So slave speak for me, great article on climateviewer.com. It was written by Frederick Mann, The Anatomy of Slave Speak. And it really gets you inside the headspace of these, world technocratic leaders, these new world order, globalists, that it's language that maintains the master-slave relationship. And it's done through the use of high-level, not low-level descriptors. So the more high-level the descriptor, the more chance that you can bamboozle a person. So to give an example, apple, orange, basketball, baseball. You and I both know what an apple is, what an orange is, a baseball, a basketball. There is very little chance of us having any disagreement about what that thing is. But a high-level descriptor is more like God, good, evil, government, religion, black, white, even those, whenever you start talking about these boxes that they try to put everybody in, Republican, Democrat, oh wait, far right Republican, far left, extremist, the more high level the descriptor, the more likely you are to be, getting shit pumped into your ear. And I think that is the number one. People always, are looking for some mind control weapon. And it's words, dude. I mean, what do you think? They don't need to microwave everybody. They don't need to use HARP ELF waves. Even though they can create extremely low frequency waves and they've got VLF transmitters all over the planet, they don't need to beam anything into your head when they beam it right into your house and your television. And then they got Operation Mockingbird CIA agents at every single news outlet. And we have state-run media. There's no doubt about it. If you don't know this, then how did you get here? Like, how did you get to weaponized news if you don't know that? So I don't want to preach to the crowd on this, but I mean, shit, everything is propaganda. Everything is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD. And FUD is the basis of MK Ultra, once again, CIA. So, when we're talking about, geoengineering, which is already this complicated topic, related to another complicated topic filled with propaganda, global warming, climate change, global boiling, CO2. We're all going to boil. We're all going to boil.
Of global boiling, according to the United Nations. That's a great segue. Let me play this clip from the Secretary General of the United Nations, just telling us a couple of weeks ago we're in the global boiling era here now.
Play that propaganda.
And for scientists, it is unequivocal. Humans are to blame. All this is entirely consistent with predictions and repeated warnings. The only surprise is the speed of the change. Climate change is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived. The air is unbreathable, the heat is unbearable, and the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable. Leaders must lead.
I'm scared, Jim. That's scary.
Hold me, Sam. And that's what you have to do with these people. The opposite of fear is love and laughter. So when they're preaching their fear porn, you have to literally, just like the kid on the schoolyard, go, "You're so dumb! Oh my God!" Like, we're global boiling. When I heard that shit, I almost fell out of my seat, and I looked at my wife and I was like, "This is classic." Like, you're never gonna believe the new jargon the new slave speak they're rolling out right now, because it was just like, that whole Trump thing where he called up Ukraine and was like, "Hey, maybe you should look into this Burisma thing because I think something might be going on there, and I'd like to know about it." They impeached Trump for just asking the question, which has now become abundantly true. Yeah, they were actually, they were taking bribe money. They were extorting, the government to fire the prosecutor that was looking into Burisma. But, of course, Trump was impeached for that, just for even asking the question. So I've reached a level of frustration with these globalists where I start thinking really evil things, and I have to what is it? What did Orwell say? I have to double think. I have to stop myself and say, pause, be peaceful, don't say what you were about to think out loud. But that's the whole idea, is that it wasn't scary enough for them to say quid pro quo. They kept trying to run with, Trump was doing this quid pro quo. So in the perception management world, in the mind control world, they call it perception management. They go out and they do a perception audit. And then once they do that audit, that is a test of how does our propaganda resonate with you. And 80% of respondents, say, well, what, WTF is a quid pro quo. And they're like, they don't understand the terms you're using. Like, we want to get this Trump guy, but they don't understand the slave speak you're using is not working. How about this? Bribery. Oh yeah, we all understand what bribery is. Bribery's the word. Roll it out to all 19 channels immediately. Next day, no more quid pro quo. Next day, it's all bribery. Same thing with global warming. Global warming was too specific, and then there was this global warming pause, and they said, "Oh shit!" Now the planet stopped heating up as rapidly as we expected. Let's just go to climate change. But the thing is, the climate's always changed. We know this because there was an ice age. There is not one today. So that had nothing to do with humans. They were not flying planes or, making boats. They certainly weren't controlling the weather and doing geoengineering. So the climate has changed, will change, and will always change. And it will have very little to do with us. As a whole.
Extreme, Jim. Very extreme. They are cranking the dial to 11 on the propaganda. I don't know if you've been noticing the reports of they're reporting as in the mainstream media, the CIA media, they're reporting across the board record heat. This is the hottest ever recorded is what they constantly are beating the drum. And you can just put in your search engine record heat.
Yeah, but that's been every year for the last 5 years was the hottest year on record. Don't you know that? Somewhere in the fucking world, somewhere in the world, they found the hottest recorded heat in that spot ever in all of recorded history, which is only about 150 years. But we won't even get into, that little tidbit. The stupidity of this is that they believe that greenhouse, the focus on CO2. There's a great website if you want to arm yourself to the teeth. It's co2coalition.org. co2coalition.org. And then there's a section called give me the facts. So it's co2coalition.org/facts. And these facts, when you just nail them down on it, I can just go, I'll explain this without reading any of the 14, 15, 20 facts that they have there that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is true. You can do this experiment yourself. What do you need? Because they say CO2 is a greenhouse gas. Here's the stupidity.
They say it's toxic.
It's plant food. There would be no life on Earth without CO2. It makes up less than 1% of the atmosphere. Less than I think it's 0.2%. 0.2% of the atmosphere is CO2. Anyway, doesn't matter. They say that heat, the CO2 is causing the heating, which has this, interwoven loop with water vapor. All of this is bullshit. And here's how you know why. What does it take to make a greenhouse? You need either plastic or glass. Am I right? Have you ever seen a greenhouse made out of anything other than plastic or glass? The reason why a greenhouse works is because you have your light source come in, and then it heats the gas inside of the greenhouse, and then that heat can't escape. The reason why is because it's a closed system. This is a very fundamental thermodynamics scientific law. Is called entropy. So the fact that Earth is not a closed system means that it cannot indefinitely heat up. The reason why we have a greenhouse at all is not because of CO2. It's because of planes that are sharding out ice clouds that are creating a blanket over the sky that trap heat at the ground at night. So normally what happens is during the daytime, energy comes in, heat comes in from the sun, and at nighttime, that heat can escape back to space. But peer-reviewed journal after peer-reviewed journalist finally realized exactly what I was saying in 2015 at the EPA hearing on jet aircraft pollution when I testified, that contrail-induced cirrus cloud, ice haze, and the metals and soot coming from jet aircraft emissions are 5,000 times the threat that all of the greenhouse gases that ever came out of any plane since the start of aviation are to the planet. The reason why is because they create that blanket. They are the greenhouse. If it were not for the greenhouse being created, there would be no greenhouse gases. There's no such thing. There is simply an open or closed system. The closed system is a greenhouse or a sunroom. If you have a sunroom, you know what I'm talking about. Same idea. The sunlight comes in, the air inside heats up because some of that gets trapped, and obviously it can't escape because you have an airtight enclosure. The Earth is not an airtight enclosure, and it never will be. So that's the fundamental flaw of this stupid global boiling idea, is that no matter how much you attempt to say that cow farts and people burning, wood burning stoves, or the pizza ovens in New York, or any of the other happy bullshit they talk about, they're escaping the fundamental problem that it's a cloud problem. That clouds are what actually trap heat at the ground. So any type of ground-based warming that were to occur has to be associated with changes in either the stratosphere or the clouds. I got a great photo. I'll show you on that one.
Jim, that's a great explanation that you just gave about the greenhouse gases and the greenhouse. And so they're causing the problem. It's the same routine we see in every area of crises that we look at. They create it. It's the problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialectic. They create these crises, and then of course the public says, "Well, do something to fix it," and they already have the pre-programmed solution to move the ball down the field for their one world government, tyrannical, technocratic, scientific dictatorship.
Check that out.
Oh, you got to hover over it. There you go. Solar radiation modification malarkey blocking. You know that thing. Yeah.
The thing. That pretty much summarizes the Biden solar radiation modification studies. What's interesting about it is that the Biden White House slipped this out on the Friday evening right before July 4th. So, of course, I said to myself, well, that means that all the talking heads from all the major, talk radio, Dan Bongino's of the world, Sean Hannity's, all of them are on vacation. Okay. So there was all these people filling in during that week. So the Biden White House puts out this report. Hey, we're going to study specifically solar radiation modification, which has been called solar radiation management for the last 20 years. They suddenly just up and changed it to solar radiation modification. Why would they do that? Now, the reason they do that is because in a world filled with Google, what you search is what you find. And if you search solar radiation modification, you will not find the long history of solar radiation.
You froze up, Jim. Jim froze up there. Sorry about that. That's weird. Well,
it should not be. I'm can upload. How is it now?
You're good.
I'm on fiber. I'm 1 gig each way. I did say CIA a whole lot at the beginning of this show, so it happens.
No, you said NSA, and I was saying all government. I mean, why do you work for the government? You should be ashamed at this point in time, honestly.
Well, I mean, there's always those people who say, like Captain Save-A-Ho is going to, I want to believe, I'm a true believer. I can fix this, the FBI can be redeemed. There's always going to be these white knights that want to
Jim,
play
they're
Captain.
literally having weaponization of the federal government congressional hearing.
I know.
Weaponization of the government. I mean, they're literally having, and so I'd like to say I named Weaponized News way before they had these hearings, but now it's all right there for the world to see what we've been talking about for so many years, that we shouldn't have this insane tyranny cracking down on the United States and the whole world. I thought we were supposedly a free country.
Yeah. I mean, I'm watching Putin lock up. Didn't they try to kill the guy with radiation before he came back to the country to run, against Putin? And then they locked him up for like 80 years, his adversary. And you got Biden basically doing the exact same thing. I mean, they're just trying to stack as many charges as they can on Trump. I mean, this is I could get into how freaking creepy this is, but it's really a moot point at this point. If somebody doesn't get in there, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be Trump. If somebody doesn't get in there with some balls and try to, like I voted for a human hand grenade the first time with Trump. I just wanted to see shit burn. I wanted to watch Rome burn. The problem is they have built this machine in such a way that if you took 25 gears out of it, it would still operate like clockwork. So we're way past Eisenhower warning us. You know what I mean? We're way past that. It's almost like a self-perpetuating, self-eating machine that I don't know. Like I try to remain hopeful. Like I hope for the best, but I expect the worst. But this one, when it comes to either, Biden with the geoengineering, in agreement with the European Union, in agreement with Bill Gates and George Soros going on talking about Sir David King has this idea to make clouds over Greenland to stop the ice sheet melting. So I might want to throw some money at that. Bill Gates throwing money at Harvard's solar geoengineering program. David Keith's ScopeX or Strato Cruiser. And then you got these morons from Make Sunsets who are literally like crowdfunding and just throwing balloons in the air, getting banned by Mexico. So, when you have all this fear porn around the idea that we're all going to die from runaway global warming, which now they're just calling global boiling.
We're boiling over here. And by the way, for the record, California summers in the Central Valley of California, where I live, are always 100 degrees. I'm sorry to tell everyone that not much has changed over the 40 plus odd years I've lived here. It's always hot in California, and they say, well, it's record temperatures in Death Valley. People are dying in Death Valley, and we're supposed to be shocked by that, Jim. It's called Death Valley.
It's called Death Valley. I mean, it's like, bro, really? Come on, dude. That's why nobody's living. I mean, like, you want to hang out there? Go right ahead. But, that's not exactly my thing. I lived in Arizona. This was 7 years ago. It was 140 degrees in where I was at in Arizona. It was in Casa Grande, Coolidge, Florence, Arizona. It's midway between Tucson and Phoenix. 140 degrees. Now I'm going, honestly, about 135 miles an hour. Okay. Because the roads out there, it never rains. So they're like the day they made them. They're perfectly straight. They're perfectly flat. You don't feel a thing. It's brilliant. So I'm going 150 miles. I'm going really fast, and I roll the window down, and it literally like burnt the skin on my cheek. Now, the difference is I live in South Carolina now, and I always have lived in South Carolina. I'm 7 years in Arizona. I would take 140 degrees in Arizona over 100 degrees in South Carolina any day, because it is at a minimum around here like 60% humidity, and most of the time 80, 90, 100% humidity. And when you've got 100 degrees plus 100% humidity, you cannot breathe outside. I mean, people are literally passing out and dying at 100 degrees. So, I mean, the biggest difference between here and there is in Arizona, you could actually go and stand in the shade. And in the shade, you could see about a 30 to maybe even 40-degree difference in the temperature between standing out in the sun and standing behind, an office building in the shade. The reason why is not because of CO2, it's because of water vapor. It is the humidity. That the water holds heat. So here in South Carolina, you can get your ass in the shade. It's not going to make a bit of difference. It makes almost no difference. In some cases, it's actually worse because it's hard to explain. But like I worked in a retread plant, and I mean the indoor, the metal of it, has this whole insulating factor plus the compounding of the heat in there. And it was, I mean, we had guys passing out all the time. But I want to get back to this whole idea of, the Biden, solar radiation modification malarkey along with the EU. This all coincides with these climate clocks of doom. And it's really creepy because they're ramping up the propaganda. They're ramping up the fear porn. And they set these climate clocks to 2029. They set it to 6 years from now. So when you've got the climate clock right there, well, it says 5 years, 343 days. This is mighty coincidental. The reason it's coincidental is because, what was it called? Agenda what? 2030?
Oh, that conspiracy theory that they wrote books about and is on their website right now.
So
on the website, yeah.
It's highly coincidental that right now we're going into a solar maximum. This window is 2024 through 2026. Okay. During this time, according to a guy named Alexander Shizhevsky, I can never pronounce his last name, on sunspots and solar, on sunspots and mass excitability. He talks about this, 11-year cycle of the sun and how it coincides with whether people are, excitable or whether they're just prone to do whatever the government says. And during the solar maximum, during this tiny 3-year window, is the most radical revolutions, war, and other things. So we have this window from 2024 through 2026.
They've been consistently moving this thing up. It was like in 100 years, and now they're saying within we barely have 5, almost 6. We only have 6 years left to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. They're really cranking up the timeline here.
So they crank the timeline up, and this is my fear. So you have Biden and the EU saying, hey, we've whittled it down to solar radiation management through stratospheric aerosol injection, marine cloud brightening, and cirrus cloud seeding or cirrus cloud thinning. So these are the three things: spraying, chemicals into the stratosphere, brightening clouds over the oceans, marine cloud brightening, and cirrus cloud thinning or melting chemtrails, the clouds that are trapping heat over the planet, the actual greenhouse. So they have to, as Dr. Rangasai Halthori from the FAA, who I interviewed, he said, we want more clouds by day, but none by night. Because during the day they cool, but at night they trap heat, like the blanket you throw over your ass, whatever you make it frigid, and you set your air conditioner on igloo, and then you get in your bed and you throw your blankets over you. That's exactly what the planes are doing when they're farting out these clouds. During the day, they block sunlight coming in, and that kind of has a cooling effect. But at night, they keep you warm, just like your blankets do. So that's why they're focusing on these three things. And the point is, they have now put this global boiling that's come out on the heels of the setting of the climate clocks, all of which are just in time for 2030. And it's my fear that they have set these clocks as a doomsday clock. And, you know, kind of like I think it's the Union of Atomic Scientists or something like that. They have the doomsday clock and they set it, you know, like 5 minutes from midnight or whatever. Same kind of idea with these climate clocks. So my fear is that they're going to drum up fear porn on global boiling. They're going to use every type of scientific manipulation, appeal to authority, technocratic computer model, policy driven bullshit that they will literally have every, you know, white coat, PhD, which is, you know, just people hiding behind diplomas, showing up at the White House going, look, just like with COVID, we project that, you know, 2 million Americans could die within the first 3 months. Royal Society. Everybody heard that projection. Trump panics, obviously, because they got him between a rock and a hard place. What do? If you do nothing, all the deaths are your fault. If you shut down the economy, all the economy your fault. Meanwhile, you had CIA guys on PBS saying the only way we can beat Trump in the next election is if somehow we crash the economy. Not a surprise there. Magically something comes along. So just like with this,
you had Fauci saying there's going to be a surprise pandemic.
And you've got the cyber polygon stuff with the cyber pandemic coming out of Darth Schwab's mouth. So we have all these different scenarios between, you know, the threat of AI weapon systems doing massive cyber hacking of our infrastructure, shutting down all the power simultaneously. We've got, you know, I could name 100 different things that are on my concern list right now. CO2 is the last of them. Okay. That's the least concern I have. Man-made freaking asteroids are a bigger concern than global boiling, for certain.
But they are intent on pushing this, and they may even they floated the idea that they're going to do climate lockdowns, Jim, and that's crazy. Can they get the public to go along with climate lockdowns? Because we've seen them float that idea all through and during the fake pandemic that was COVID. We got to watch what we say about it, but on Facebook over there. But anyway, the coup, right? And they said they locked us down for that. We're seeing all these negative effects of that, from children learning to suicides at record. I don't know if you saw. It came at CDC reported almost 50,000 Americans in 2022 committed suicide. That's like almost as much as died in the Vietnam War. It's
one of the. I heard the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. do an interview with Sean Hannity. He had like a town square. And you know, I don't watch Fox News, but I tuned in specifically for this. I found a website where I could watch Fox News for free that evening. And I had it on blast, you know, so everybody in the house, my wife's in the other room, she's listening too. And RFK said he's like, what would you have done differently? And he said, well, I'll just tell you this. The guy who is, you know, credited with eliminating smallpox worldwide, he came out of retirement whenever they started talking about lockdowns and said, this is not how you handle this. In fact, this is the opposite of what you would want to do. You'd want to protect the vulnerable and let everybody else go on about their lives, because locking people in their houses is actually going to create more spreading of the virus. And that's like one of those, you know, duh moments. I made a video, and you can still see it at Climate Viewer on YouTube, March 2020. While Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were still down in Chinatown saying, hey, you don't need to wear a mask, everything's fine. I had my mask on with my goggles, with my, you know, Tyvek suit on and everything. And I'm like, I'm reporting live from the fear porn coronavirus bunker on all of the mass hysteria and bullshit that's going on. And I predicted everything that was going to happen. I said, here's what's going to happen. They're going to lock down everybody. They're going to have a mask mandate. They're going to rush out a vaccine that will be dangerous. They will give blanket immunity to the vaccine creators because all this has happened before. And if you just look at the swine flu epidemic of 1976, which is the year I was born, so I shouldn't know shit about it, but guess what? I'm a nerd, so I read things. The same thing happened. They had the drug manufacturers rush to make a vaccine. You had public service announcements, those good old PSAs, saying, hey, you should go get vaccinated against the swine flu. And what happened? There were all of these adverse reactions. There were class action lawsuits and all of that sort of thing.
And they lied then. I don't know if you saw that. Mike Wallace, when we actually had some reporting here, Mike Wallace from CBS News went in. I don't know if you saw that piece about the adverse reactions, this and another, but he interviewed Mary Tyler Moore. And he said, hey, Mary Tyler Moore, did you give the CDC permission to use your name to promote the swine flu vaccine? She said no. And so that's your public service announcement. They were even lying way back then trying to promote their vaccination program.
So and then RFK made another point that basically there's a law in the books that says you can't grant a special emergency, override of the FDA approval process if any drug that's currently on the market, whether it's for this particular illness or not, shows any effectiveness against said disease. So that's why they crushed the HCQ, the ivermectin, anybody that said anything about that.
Are we allowed to talk about that? I don't know. I guess we'll see if we get banned again.
I'm way past the point. I have so little fucks to give, I would have to take out a loan to get some.
No, me too. But I mean, we're on Facebook for the first time. So thank you for.
As far as I understand, and we'll see if Zuckerberg, sticks to his scruples, but they have eased the restrictions on talking about it because apparently Pfizer's made enough money to, fill God's pockets with gold. I mean, if you haven't turned on the local radio station and heard iHeartRadio brought to you by Pfizer, I mean, everything's brought to you by Pfizer at this point. They don't need it. They got residuals. Let's just put it that way. So they've limited, they've reduced the lockdown on, talking about this sort of stuff. People don't have to say the cornholio or coof virus anymore. But anyway, that was the reason, according to RFK now, that's the reason why they were shutting it down. He says, what I would have done differently is, when we have this beautiful internet of all this interconnectivity, I would have, literally had a hotline where doctors are, constantly reporting in what's effective, what's not, have a rapid response team saying, look, this doctor in South Carolina took some goldfish food and some lemonade with a little bit of bleach, and it kills it deader than a doorknob. They're like, really? That? Seriously? And then have some other doctor try, and he's like, you know what, son of a bitch, this is actually working. Anything. But the signs early on were monoclonal antibodies, hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin were killing the shit out of the virus, or at least making the most extreme adverse reactions almost nothing. And I'll never forget, there was this group of 3 doctors that came on. They were from different parts of the country. They had a webinar and they were comparing notes, and that immediately got pulled from the internet. And what RFK was basically saying was, because if what they were saying was true, which we now know was true, then they couldn't do Operation Warp Speed. They couldn't get the funding and the ability to rush this out. So at the end of the day, it goes back to the same thing that we were talking about at the beginning. On my NSA page, climbviewer.com/privacy, you can look at at story after story of where the government, on behalf of large corporations, has done mass manipulation, privacy invasion, attacking of activists for the benefit and profit of major U.S. corporations. In this case, we're literally talking about, one of the most telling ones was a State Department cable. And if you scroll down, you'll see it. Monsanto. It'll be on the page under Monsanto on the little fact section right below the NSA map. Keep going down. But it'll say Stone Ghost versus Monsanto. You just pass by it. It's in the drop downs. There's little drop down panels there. But it was a State Department right there. Stone Ghost and Monsanto versus anti-GMO activists in Paris. Top of the page. No. Over to the left. Right there. Up one. That. This was a U.S. State Department cable that came out in the original WikiLeaks. And the moratorium on Monsanto's famous Mon 810 genetically modified corn being passed all around Europe due to people's belief that the products were unsafe. Scroll down to you see the red part. Right there, it's the last paragraph of this area. And it's probably the scariest damn thing I ever heard come out of the U.S. government. And this is one of the reasons why they really wanted to stop anybody from reading the WikiLeaks stuff is, and I'm going to go to it myself. Going here to privacy and then scroll down, and I'll read it to you because it's that damn creepy. Country Team Paris recommends, it's underneath that right there where it says 4, 5, and then 6 right there. Country Team Paris recommends that we calibrate a target retaliation list that causes pain across the EU, since this is a collective responsibility, but also focuses in part on the worst culprits. The list should be measured rather than vicious and must be sustained over the long term, since we should not expect an early victory. This is literally the United States government. This is a State Department cable from Paris, from the embassy in Paris back to the State Department in the United States, that's saying we're going to use the NSA Five Eyes Stone Ghost spy apparatus to figure out who these anti-Monsanto activists are, to violate their privacy, to dig up all the dirt we can on them, to cause a retaliation list that causes pain, which is measured rather than vicious and sustainable over the long term. So this is why I say pollution, privacy, and propaganda. These are the 3 Ps of screwing over the world. You've got the NSA, the State Department, working on behalf of Monsanto to shove corn down the people of Paris's throat.
Or is Monsanto working on behalf of the government? Because we know State Department Memorandum 200, official national policy, official foreign policy is depopulation, population control.
There's that. But I mean, I would say it would be that if it weren't for all of the other examples. So you have, in this case, you have a State Department cable saying, look, use the NSA's, and the CIA and the FBI, every apparatus that we have to gather intelligence on who those activists are that are trying to stop this company from this American company that is not government, and shove it down their throats. By the way, hurt those people, shut those people up, silence those people. This is in the first WikiLeaks.
And basically make them eat GMO corn.
Right. Force them to eat it. Stone Ghost versus WikiLeaks. The U.S. defense contractors hired to do cyber warfare and social media sock puppets to sway public opinion against WikiLeaks, discredit journalists, activists. Same thing. You had HB Gary, Palantir, Barrico Technologies, and this is in the one right above it, the little drop down right above it. But it's a Stone Ghost versus WikiLeaks. And all of the references are at the bottom of the page. But anyway, that they create fake Facebook, Twitter, YouTube accounts to post online as if they're real people to sway your opinion. One person can run up to 50 different accounts, all with complete online profiles. And this is the ability for what they call persona management software. And in this, H.B. Gary, a U.S. defense contractor, and Barrico Technologies and Palantir, they were attacking Glenn Greenwald, an American journalist, anybody that worked with Glenn, anybody that worked with Julian Assange. They had a target hit list of people, and that's what they were doing. So you had defense contractors attacking an American journalist to shut him up over this. In other cases, there was let me see right here. This is the good stuff. In the early 1990s, the United States National Security Agency intercepted the communications between European aerospace company Airbus and Saudi Arabian National Airline. In 1994, Airbus lost $6 billion contract with Saudi Arabia after the NSA, acting as a whistleblower, reported that Airbus officials had been bribing Saudi officials to secure the contract. As a result, the American aerospace company McDonnell Douglas, now part of Boeing, won the multi-billion-dollar contract instead of Airbus. It's case after case. I got 20 cases on this one section alone of different companies, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. The list goes on of where they spied, they lied, they manipulated, and then the U.S. defense contractor or business won the contract. And this is using these, spy apparatus that should be used to protect national security. I guess national security also includes, the bottom line of these too big to fail industries. That's what Eisenhower was really talking about. The military industrial complex, that the one hand would scratch the other one's back and vice versa. And that's where we're at, we're
scientific elite.
Yeah. If you go further into the actual speech, he says the military industrial university. And he includes the universities in there because if you look at things like, let's say, just a given one, HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, if it weren't for a bunch of college students at Clemson University, the University of Maryland, and the University of Alaska Fairbanks, if it weren't for these nerds going up there and whipping some dials around and punching out a whole bunch of numbers, the technology would not ever get developed. So the universities and their research, DARPA included, fundings and all of that stuff, it's this, incestuous circle of you learn how to do it and we'll learn how to weaponize it. It's Oppenheimer saying we were building the bomb because we thought it would bring an end to the war and it would save lives. It's geoengineering assholes like David Keith saying, sprinkling sulfur into the atmosphere to block out the sun will kill, what I'm talking about, maybe 1 million tons of sulfur dioxide a year, will kill many tens of thousands of people. It's our hope that we would save more lives than we took. It's the same argument. So it's the Oppenheimer argument over and over again.
They also say if we didn't do this, then somebody else would. And so we have to be ahead of the game. And so we have to do this.
I'm a devil's advocate for you. Now, this is my wife. I love my wife because we've been together 24 years. And anything, you know how women are, anything you can think, they can think of a monkey wrench to throw in it. So I say, ban all weather modification. She's like, okay. Now, let's say China can steer hurricanes. You don't want America to be good at steering hurricanes? I was like, son of a bitch. She's right. I mean, she's right. Whether you like it or not, she's right. And there was a running joke while Trump was in the White House that Trump kept talking about China's hurricane gun. Put that in the searches, in quotations, Trump, and then put hurricane gun, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And the idea is, if one other country can weaponize the weather, shouldn't we be able to weaponize the weather and do it better? Because America, F yeah, right? I mean, isn't that the slogan? Yeah. America, I love that song. America, fuck yeah. I mean, so at the end of the day, it's like, I'm always torn on this because I hate the idea of people controlling what. Yeah, there you go. Trump once asked his aides if China had developed a hurricane gun that could be used on the U.S. This is a fact. This is a fact. And of course, they made fun of him afterwards, and they said that he talked about nuking a tornado. I think it was Dorian.
I remember
a Hurricane Dorian. That he was going to drop nuclear bombs, but actually, there's a long history of people actually talking about nuking hurricanes. It's a totally bad idea. Not to mention, it's going to sling radioactive waste everywhere. We won't get into that. But it leaves the question unresolved that. We have this ticking climate clock. We have the fear porn apparatus building. We have the studies underway and the technology available. Is the clock the impetus to say, well, we know that you're not going to stop with all fossil fuels in 5 years? That is technically fucking impossible. It is Elon Musk, who is the king of electric vehicles, has said there is no way in the next 50 years we can fully transition away from fossil fuels.
Jim, it's so transparent. It all lines up with their one world government agenda, UN Agenda 2030, and all their timelines, everything, all that lines up perfectly. It's right. It's transparent for the whole world to see. Over here in California, they ban. By 2035, they say they banned all gas-powered motors for small motors like generators, gas.
I heard that one.
How are you going to implement it? It's not feasible. It's not possible. But they're still passing laws saying they're going to do it. We're going back to horse and buggy or something over here.
What are they going to do? They're going to get a bunch of donkeys with plows to go get those rare earth minerals that takes to make the solar panels that cannot be recycled. What about the wind farms where the blades, they have to be replaced every so often? They cannot be recycled. They're literally burying these things. There's a satellite shot of these wind turbine blades being buried, and the earth mover, bulldozer that's there already. Like if you saw one in person, it would blow your freaking mind how big it is. And they show this earth mover next to this graveyard of, wind farm turbines being buried in the ground. And it's just miles and miles of them. And we've just literally started this technology. It's crap. It's 100% crap. So now the newest one is, you've got a whole lot of people saying, well, nuclear is the only viable solution. Well, splitting atoms is a hell of a way of boiling water, as one scientist once put it. But nuclear is, same problem. What do you do with all the waste? Oh, and then there's that whole thing that, when there's an accident, you can never live there again. At least, 50, 100 years, maybe it could be somewhat livable. You think about, Chernobyl, and then you think about where Kiev is and the war that's going on there, in Ukraine. And I'm going, has anybody done any like radiological studies on the effects of all the bombs and, destroyed buildings in the exclusionary zone of Chernobyl? which is right there in that Kiev area, nobody's even talking about it. I mean, it's just not, it's a non-discussion. But that area is, known as the exclusion zone.
Real environmental threats are of no concern. What we do have to do here, Jim, is ban gas-powered. Ban California, and it says California votes. California didn't vote. This unelected bureaucracy, Air Resources Board, voted that no one elected them in our democracy. They voted to ban the sale of gas-powered cars by 2035. No one in California voted for this. The Air Resources Board, unelected appointed board, voted for this.
Well, CARB can, wave goodbye to everybody as they crank up their gas-powered cars and move to other states. And, the beautiful governor out there who thinks he's going to be the next president. No, I mean, he's like Trudeau 2.0.
They're cousins from another mother or something.
It's stupid. The stupidity of it is, so let me get this straight. You want to go to EVs. Okay, I get it. I understand.
Jim, they failed at the high-speed rail here now. It's a complete and
oh God, that was failure. A debacle. That's a debacle in and of itself.
Because that was supposed to save us from all the auto emissions. Was okay. The auto emissions are bad, causing pollution. Everybody's going to get on this high-speed rail and go from San Francisco to LA in 2 hours. They told us, right? That was the plan, and they built this thing. I can see it. I see it when I go right over here to the 99 freeway. It's halfway built. One of the bridges over the San Joaquin River here, Fresno. They didn't put the rebar in it to stabilize the structure, and so at some point they're going to have to tear it all down.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm all for maglev technology. I think that having high-speed rail would cut down on air pollution. I would love to be able to take a bullet train, and I came up with an actual feasible plan. Like I-20 literally runs the entire southern coast of the United States. And it's, 2 lanes here, 2 lanes here. There's a divider in the middle. You could literally do it like Epcot Center, put a T-post up in the middle and put the train right down the middle of the interstate, almost all the way through. It would be very easy to do. In fact, they've even come up with these new, it's carbon black and cement or graphene, where you can use it as a super capacitor. So literally the roads, they're talking about using the roads as super capacitors to charge EVs as they're driving down the road, which, sounds great in theory until you think about the electromagnetic frequencies coming off of the fact that the road that you're driving on is a wireless charger. That's kind of super creepy. But, they're going to plow ahead with these kind of technologies. The problem is none of it works if you can't supply the power. And when you've already got rolling blackouts happening all across America, and you're talking about electronic everything, we're in the age of supercomputing, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, server farms, which are growing at an exponential rate. It's like, this is our use graph, like how much power consumption over the next 10 years. This is what the graph would look like. And this is the graph of what they want to do with fossil fuel. These two don't jive. There has to be a happy medium where you come up with enough power to power all the things of the future that you want. This is what Elon Musk was talking about. It's a no-brainer.
Jim, I agree with the technology. Yeah, let's have clean. We can't get out of the way of our own corruption. We've already put $105 billion, which is still a lot of money, into this high-speed rail in California that they haven't even. It's not done. You can't even run a train anywhere on it. $105 billion, and so it's just corruption after corruption after corruption, and we can't get this thing built.
Well, I'm going to go right to, since you gave me a number, I'm going to throw this one right back at you. I mentioned earlier, CO2 is at the bottom of my list of concerns. One at the very, very top of my list of my concerns is high altitude electromagnetic pulse or solar flare, Carrington event. This would end society as we know it in the blink of about 7 minutes.
And zap everything electrical, right?
And we want to go to a all electric world. Now, the EMP Act or Impact Group over a decade ago tried to get funding is to protect our critical infrastructure from high altitude electromagnetic pulse caused by nuclear detonation in the atmosphere or from a Carrington event like a solar flare from hell. And it would just take a series of circuit breakers throughout the nation, EMP proofing our nuclear reactors, because if we don't do this, then simultaneously, we have 440 plus nuclear reactors worldwide that operate on continuously pumping water into this, or it blows up and melts down. So if we don't protect the grid from EMP, we all die. Guess how much he said it would cost to do it?
How much?
You're never going to believe this shit.
$105 billion.
$28 billion.
That's nothing. That's literally nothing.
We literally left more money in Afghanistan in military parts just sitting on the ground than it takes to protect our nation's grid from certain doom. The Heritage Foundation said that 2/3 of Americans would die within 6 months if we had a massive power outage due to HEMP or a solar flare. And for the record, all you smart asses out there that don't think this is possible, you don't have to hit America with a nuclear bomb. You just got to get it above America. So that puts Rocket Man in North Korea. That puts Iran. All of these other, countries that you never would have thought of. Oh, they would, we're scared of them because of nuclear. No. All they have to do is loft that thing like a firecracker in the sky. And because of the way electromagnetic waves pass, that at an altitude of about 100 kilometers above America, right over the center, like Omaha, Nebraska, from coast to freaking coast, gone. Everything gone, never coming back, cannot be undone. Now, I lived through Hurricane Hugo. I remember 6 months, later getting power, and, there were still places that did not have power, that they're out there, moving trees and all. This ain't that. This is literally everything is gone and has to be replaced from the generating station to every single transmission line along the way. And none of it's protected. So when they're talking about global boiling and talking about blocking out the sun to save us from a fake ass event like global boiling, it makes me boil when I know that it literally let's say that $105 billion that they wasted on that stupid train, they could protect all of the nuclear reactors that we already have, the critical infrastructure like the backbones of the internet, the SCADA system that controls our dams, our water, our power. All of this could be protected. They have no impetus to do it. They have never spent a dime on doing it, and it never even reaches the public discourse. Let's put it that way. But it's the greatest threat to humankind right now, between the fact that we have that problem and it could simultaneously solve the problem of an AI threat if done right. Because whether it's you know, I'm not thinking Terminator. I'm not thinking, you know, the bullshit that you hear in the Matrix or anything like that. I'm just being realistic and going, if I were a hacker and I were playing Dr. Evil and I work for the bad guys, here's what I'd do. I would get an AI. I would have it study every single hacking manual on the planet. I would have it study every single operating system I would have it study every programmable logic controller, PLC, Siemens, all that stuff, so that it intimately understands every single system on the planet. And then I would deploy that son of a bitch and watch the world burn, because there are hackers out there that can write scripts and then have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of infected PCs descend on a target in a DDoS and destroy that target temporarily. And the whole purpose is just so that one guy, while all the others are making the noise, can get in and do the damage. Like when China stole all of the Office of Personnel Management files from America, like when China violated NASDAQ, like when China violated the SCADA system for our power grid. All of this has already happened. Now, imagine a world where, an artificial intelligence was designed as a weapon, knowing all of this, and could operate 1 billion times faster than any human could respond. Even the latest, Chat GPT 5 with the synesthesia, avatar, they were having a conversation. It's on a YouTube channel called Digital Engine. It's one of my favorites. Said, well, what could we do to defend against an artificial intelligence that was, that determined to do this? And its answer was, the only thing you could do is develop an artificial intelligence to defend against an artificial intelligence. Is that even happening? Like, I'm more concerned about, things like that than, even weather warfare.
Let me read you a quote from Jesus that perfectly encapsulates the spirit of the age with what you're talking about here, because this same thing came into my mind. We have a giant freak out about COVID over the last 3.5 years, and then they discover this biolab in Reedley, unkept, no security, like an abandoned warehouse, and then the government acts like no big deal after we saw how they behaved over the last 3.5 years. And so this quote from Jesus, which my friend Joe, I want to give him credit, told me, this is Matthew 23:24, blind guide to strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. Strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. And I was like, that's a perfect analogy or explanation or quote from Jesus that explains the spirit of this age. We have a giant freak out over stuff that doesn't even matter. And the real stuff that matters, we don't care about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always reminded of the Serenity Prayer at all times, and you kind of have to be like, to even be able to function in this, alternative alt news, world. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And if that's really where we're at, because, the more I learn, the more I go, we are screwed. Like, what kind of world are my daughters going to grow up in? And then I go, but, the only thing that's necessary for evil to prevail, all of those things, Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of dedicated individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. But we're really, between the already crackdown censorship, straight from the top levels of the government, combined with the fact that we are really entering an age where artificial intelligence deep fakes are gonna, they're gonna pass that that point where anybody will be able to tell the difference between fact and fiction. Like, literally, they'll be able to just take 4 episodes of your video, and literally go, Sam just, said that, RAP in children is a great thing. And, like you're watching a clip of yourself say things you never said. And you're like, that looks too real. All of that's possible today. I mean, it's already possible today. Can you imagine the type of propaganda we're going to see in the future? In the very near future.
News Corp, which of course is Fox News, Sky News, giant news corporation, News Corp, is reporting yesterday that they have a plunge in profit of 75%, and so they're hailing an opportunity of AI.
Yeah,
it's exactly what you're saying here. Look at this. Sky News is reporting, of course, News Corp is the parent corporation. They're 75%, because they're constantly lying, and every other commercial is pharma. And so they're going to, everybody, all you reporters, journalists, whatever you want to call yourself, propagandists that went along for the ride, you're going to be out of work here soon. I'm sorry to tell you. And AI is going to take over. They're announcing it here.
Yeah, I got one for you. There you go. Maybe showing off AI generated fake TV episode during writer's strike is a bad idea. And they literally fed this artificial intelligence algorithm to generate a South Park episode from scratch, and it literally wrote the entire script. It generated all the characters, and they did all this while they were on strike. This is July 18th, 2023. So yeah, like they're just proving that we're not even necessary anymore. Like the Screen Actors Guild, the Screenwriters Guild. How about How about we don't give you that raise? Just tell you to screw off, because we already own your face, Alec Baldwin. Like I can go whip you up in a freaking lab and pay the computer nerds to animate everything coming out of your mouth. Like why should we pay you billions of dollars when we pay this guy $100,000 a year to sit behind a computer and can do it all that way? This is really like, game-changing stuff.
And the writers, you don't come out with any new material. All you can do is bad sequels and remakes. So therefore, you're done. AI could do that.
They're like, look, they could spit out a shitty Barbie movie, you know what I mean, and make it twice as woke. Like, oh, can we up the woke meter on this and dial down on this? Like, I mean, they could literally, generate. You remember those I don't know if you ever experienced these, choose your own adventure books. Like, it's like, if you want to do this, turn to page 18. If you choose to do that, turn to page 30. Like, we're literally at the point now where you could go to a movie theater, and depending on your personal beliefs, that you see one ending and another person sees a completely different ending to the movie. And they've already tested this technology. So the point I'm trying to make, and how this all ties back, because I like to tie a bow on it. We have this climate clock of doom. We have this global boiling fear porn. We have the technology already well developed and understood. They know it will kill people. And they're basically saying, if you don't meet the demands that we have for a digital currency, for a carbon-free net zero by 2050, they're just going to be like, well, if we're going to hit net zero by 2050, we should be here, but we're not. So I guess we're going to have to do some damn geoengineering. And I really think that is the overarching story of, what's going on here, what's at play, is that just like with every other, never let a good crisis go to waste, that they recognize that by doing geoengineering, solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, that will guarantee that they control water resources worldwide. And if he who controls the weather will control the world. So they want to make sure that, God, what was the term they said for it? Oh my God, the Five Eyes nations. China basically called them like a white supremacist group. I can't remember the term that they use for it right now, but the Five Eyes nations want to basically control the thermostat of the planet before China ever gets the chance to. So we're now, just like we're in this artificial intelligence race to see who can make the best one. Biden last week rolled out sanctions against China, saying we can't sell, these NVIDIA processors or quantum computing parts or any kind of technology associated with AI because it would embolden and empower the Chinese PRC, their military. And obviously there's going to be some pushback on that. Who knows what China will actually do. But we're in an AI war already, between Russia, China, America, who can build the best one fastest and, make sure that it's the dominant AI. And the same is true with weather modification. The same is true with geoengineering. Who can master the technology, have it available for deployment, and then gain control of the climate, because he who controls the climate controls the world. So
Jim,
if
will they have the general public cheering on the chemtrail spraying and saying, thank you very much for saving our life from global boiling?
That's the whole point, because it's like the Kissinger quote. I got to go to this one because, like, the minute you said it, I immediately thought of the Kissinger quote. Today, Americans would be outraged if United Nations troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told that an outside threat from beyond, whether real or promulgated, that threatened our very existence. It is then that all peoples of the world will plead with their world leaders to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by their world government. And whether it's them aliens are coming, because you hear that in Congress, there's freaking aliens. And now it's global boiling. And, there's another pandemic on the way. Shit, we're having a cyber pandemic, and it's caused by artificial intelligence. And the Chinese are trying to... all of the above. Cyber Polygon. Guess who it's run by? World Economic Forum. Wants to do a cyber pandemic, study every year. And who's running it last year? The Russians were running it. I thought the Russians were the bad guys. You guys are constantly saying Russia, Russia, Russia. They interfered in our election. They this, they that. They stole Hillary Clinton's emails. Come on, man. You can't have it both ways. You cannot have a cyber pandemic, a cyber plandemic, cyber polygon. You can't have that and have China and Russia involved and everybody sharing information. And then at the same time go, oh, but wait, they're our geopolitical adversary and they've been hacking us for years. They literally stole the designs for the Joint Strike Fighter. We invested billions, if not trillions of dollars in this, F-35, and China literally just went and 3D printed one and then rolled it out on the friggin' runway. Like, we did all the damn work. They stole the designs and then they printed it out. I mean, come on. Can you get more blatant than that? All the crap that Biden left in Afghanistan, the day we left, the Afghanis, they're freaking, getting bids from Iran and China saying, hey, we want that American equipment so we can tear it apart and understand every part of it and then go make it. So this is the selling out of America that just drives me insane. And I keep going, like for the longest time I said, I want to always, if there's going to be a new world order, I think we should be the ones to define what it will be. You know what I mean? Because in that case, they've already built the monuments to us. It's up to us to define what this new world order will be. And the problem is, after the whole pandemic, the COVID lockdowns, it really broke my heart to see how many there are people still wearing face diapers around here in South Carolina today.
Yeah.
I mean, I see them all the time walking down the street by themselves or in a car with windows rolled up, nobody else in the car, face diaper on. And I'm going, we are so screwed. Like, how many, but this will give you hope. So I heard some Israeli dude, and he was apparently he was a leftist from Israel, and he was kind of giving away the beans, spilling the beans. And he said that we've come to the determination through the scientific process that you don't need a majority of the population to force change on a nationwide scale. You only need about 8 to 11% of the population to be vocal, to be in the streets, and to be protesting to make the government concede. How do we get that 8%?
They arrested them all for January 6th.
Yeah, all except for Ray Epps, right? Oh God, man. I keep telling people, I'm like, so all right, so we get to this point where we magically hit that 8% number, and then along comes all the agent provocateurs. They're rolling up with U-Haul vans filled with bricks and Molotov cocktails and start passing them out. The useful idiots will be like, hell yeah, let's burn this motherfucker to the ground. And then next thing you know, martial law, everything they wanted, climate lockdowns because everybody was behaving badly in the street. It's like, how do you, like the whole game theory of it, like how do you navigate that and get to a point where you get people to the streets because they're outraged, they don't want to take it, I'm tired, I'm not going to take it anymore, but then not have it hijacked by the same people, the same swamp rats that want the military industrial complex to live on forever. They're always going to infiltrate. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There will never be an organization that does not get hijacked in some way, shape, or form. Hell, Project Veritas, look at what happened to him. I mean, he had to, James O'Keefe had to make O'Keefe Media Group, OMG. Yeah, because they, made all these accusations against him. And they were like, oh, he's a tyrant. He's like my way or the highway. Tucker Carlson, same kind of deal. He just wouldn't toe the narrative, kept wanting to talk about things that they didn't want him to talk about. They're like, look, our CIA guys in the back and, the Murdochs, they really aren't cool with what you're talking about, man. You need to stop. You talked about vote hacking. And meanwhile, I had a YouTube playlist called Hack the Vote that I'd been storing up over 7 years of different videos. And this is not just conspiracy crap. We're talking about the DEF CON Black Hat convention, very well-known hackers able to, violate these machines, people testifying in front of House of, representatives in different states, about how they were able to manipulate the vote. This playlist was priceless, and YouTube deleted it. They deleted a playlist on my damn YouTube channel.
That's bizarre, but not your whole channel or one video, just a whole playlist.
They deleted a playlist, and one time I read a letter. It was from all the airline industry CEOs. So it was the CEO of Delta, UPS, JetBlue, Southwest, every one of their CEOs signed a letter to the Biden White House saying, in your own words, COVID need no longer run our life. They used his own words in the start of the letter to the White House and said, please remove these mandates that you have on the airline industry that people meet a certain quota of time before they're allowed to check in with TSA and board flights, and, you know, mandatory masks on flights because it's hurting our industry. All I did was read the damn letter, and I got a medical misinformation community guideline strike, and they deleted the video. It gets weirder. So I had about 60,000 members on my, I think I added a 0, 6,000 members on my Discord chat. And my Discord chat, I had a bot.
Still, that's pretty good.
I mean, it's decent, you know. So I had 6,000 people in my Discord, and I had a channel and a bot, and the bot would basically, whenever I posted a video to YouTube, the bot would recognize that a new video was posted to YouTube, and it would put it in the #videos channel. So it would just automatically post it there. New video has been posted. Everybody in the chat gets an update. It's just a little thumbnail. You can click on it. Before YouTube could give me that strike, Discord sent a message simultaneously to me and my chat moderator. There's a friend of mine. He goes by I'm Lord Warfare, hacker buddy of mine. And so he gets the email, and he's calling me. He's like, I just got an email saying that you're, you know, posting that you're a moderator on a chat group that's posting misinformation. And then I checked my email, and it was the timestamps on his email versus my email was 5 seconds difference. And on mine, it said, you have been banned for life for repeatedly violating the, you know, misinformation, you know, terms of service with Discord. So they banned me. They deleted my server on Discord first, just for the video being shared over there. Then, and like an idiot, I didn't go, I probably should take this video off of YouTube. Then they gave me the strike on YouTube and blocked it. That video is now pinned at the top of my Odyssey channel forevermore, because at the end of the day, all I was doing was, you know, I was just reading a letter, and I figured out why afterwards. A week later, the Biden administration came out and told the airlines to go fuck themselves. And you cannot make that up. So it was one of those, you know, I did the proper copyright counterclaim. I said, look, I have Climate Viewer News LLC, protected by the First Amendment. I am a news organization, not just in name, but in legal stature. I am reporting on news. I did not make any medical claims whatsoever. I simply read a press release from airline industry CEOs. You can verify this by watching the entire video. I never made any medical claims whatsoever. I was just reporting on
legitimately newsworthy, and they censored it.
And they censored it because they knew, somehow they knew that the Biden administration had yet to rule on this and was going to tell the airlines to go screw themselves.
Because the federal government was in there directing all the censorship.
Because they literally had a CIA or FBI guy right there. It's been proven by the Twitter files that they have government officials working hand in, hand in hand with all these
backdoor panels that they go into, and they have a whole control panel about what narrative are you going to censor today?
Yeah, and that's all through a thing called CISA. If you haven't heard about it, Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA.gov, CISA. CISA just got recently busted being involved in all of this, censorship of all the media, like all the I call them the Silicon Mafia. That anybody from the Silicon Valley social media, they're the Silicon Mafia, in my opinion. Computer chips are made of silicon. If you don't get the reference, I'm sorry. So yeah, like the Silicon Mafia is they work in two ways. On the one hand, they work as a propaganda / censorship arm for the federal government, and that's why they've been given that Section 230 cut out from the FCC regulations, because they're not a publisher, they're a platform, even though everybody knows that's bullshit now. That should be gone immediately, so you can hold these people liable in a court of law, all that sort of stuff. But the reason why it hasn't,
the people's businesses, how many millions, billions of dollars have they cost Americans through their censorship regime?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the reason why they're not stripped of their Section 230 immunities is because they also comply with something called CALIA, or the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, which says that every single internet service provider, or the same thing is true. Kim.com had that email server that was impregnable, like nobody could break into it. It's fully encrypted, and they shut that thing down faster than anything, because at the end of the day, whether it's Google, whether it's YouTube, same thing, Alphabet, whether it's Meta, which is Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, all the things. Twitter seems to be a little freer now, but at the end of the day, all of these are also operating as intelligence gathering tools for the same Stone Ghost Network, for the Five Eyes nations, to basically be able, because the way it's supposed to work is the NSA is only supposed to spy on foreign adversaries. So if they need to spy on somebody in America, they have the GCHQ do it in Britain. And the same is true in Britain. So Britain has NSA spy on British citizens. And now they've gotten to the point where they don't even give a damn. They just straight up do it themselves. They're like FISA court, what was it? 279,000 FISA, requests just from the FBI alone. I mean, they're literally, it's like an open door at this point. You can just go and say, we watched this video of this Jim Lee assholes on there talking about this and that. Give me everything he ever said for the last 10 years. Like everything. And then they could just lay it out like a spreadsheet, and everything you've ever said, every phone conversation you've ever had, every text message you've ever had, vocal recognition to say, hey, he walked into this guy's house and an Xbox microphone picked him up and he was there. They have a thing called Trapwire, where it does facial recognition software across multi-platforms. And they could say, Jim Lee gets up in the morning. He typically leaves his house around this time. His vehicle is spotted at this intersection, He gets to work at this time. But today, Jim Lee's face was recognized near a port. And that is what they call pre-crime, where they're literally now running these mass algorithms at the Utah data center to say these targeted individuals, if they scurry out of their normal lanes, well, they might be, he's headed towards this, uranium depot, and then bam, literal pre-crime. You can look it up. It's called Trapwire. And all these things, they come out from, hacktivists. And it just gets creepier every single year. So, I fully believe in the whole idea, pollution, privacy, propaganda. Pick your topic for the first P. Mine happens to be pollution. Whether it's geoengineering, weather modification, nuclear radiation, electromagnetic radiation, those types of pollution of water, sea, land, air. If you stand up against any corporation that is doing it, they're going to violate your privacy, and they're going to make up propaganda about what you said and who you are. They will destroy your reputation. And as Ben Franklin said, glass, china, and reputation are easily broken and never well mended. And that is, character assassination. We're seeing it right now for the second election in a row. Character assassination via the Mockingbird media. And, meanwhile, the fear porn train keeps rolling on with climate boiling, geoengineering, and climate clocks of doom.
That's a great place to end there, Jim. Thank you for your time. You gave us almost 2 hours on this broadcast, and thank you for joining us in the era of global boiling that we find ourselves in, and no one better than the climate viewer, Jim Lee, to everybody go to his website, a wealth of information there. Awesome website. You put in such a tremendous amount of high quality work there. Everybody go to climateviewer.com. Anywhere else, Jim, any final words or final thoughts before we wrap up this broadcast?
You could always hit me up, Jim at climateviewer.com. My email address, Jim at climateviewer.com. If you want to cheer me up, just send me some good news. Cause I need at least a daily dose of some good news. I want to try to focus part of my show. I do a call-in show, usually every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes I'm late, 7 p.m. But 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, I have, an open call-in show where people can call in, ask questions. It's just completely ask me anything. But I want to be able to say, I want the wins. You know what I mean? I think that we don't focus enough on the wins, and it's so hard to find them. So every little win needs to be celebrated, especially in a time of overwhelming fails. Whether it's local, state, federal, world government, military industrial complex, all the corporate cronyism. There's just fail after fail after fail, and it seems to just get worse and worse and more dire predictions of what our future is going to be. I need to know about the wins. So if anybody can help me out in the win category with bringing some of that information, that's what I would ask you to do. Of course, you can always support my channel. I suggest you support Sam as well. This is a tough life. Let's put it that way. None of us are getting filthy rich by telling the truth about things that we cared passionately about. You got to be a comedian who has, star friends to make it, in this world, solely on this. So I'm not sure, what you do during your day. I work 50 hours a week. At a jobby job as a security guard with a gun on my hip, and still find time to nerd the crap out and make my website and all of that stuff. But yeah, I would like to hear some more good news. So that would be my sole request. Hit me up, Jim at climateviewer.com. Hell, my phone number and address are on my website in the footer. Call me, mail me, but I'd love to hear some good news sprinkled in with all of the doom and gloom.
I hear you, Jim. That's a great way to end the show. Yeah, we do need good news that people are waking up, even though it doesn't feel like it a lot. We're just recovering from COVID. Now people are starting to see more clearly. I think more people are going to continue to wake up as we move here forward with the ridiculousness of it all. It's just so far out of left field with the agenda of the government all the way down to your local government. And more people here where I'm at in Fresno County are questioning things, starting to really put the screws to the local politicians here and ask them the hard questions, which needs to be done because it's just so over the top, ridiculous clown world that we're done. And so more and more people, as it directly affects you, which I thought the 3 years of the lockdown would have affected you, however long it was, 2 years, whatever. The insane overreaction for the bat virus. I thought that would do it, and it did for a lot of people, but we're still moving down the line. And so the good news is more people are, and I will try to keep that in mind, Jim, and send you some good news as I come across it. We really appreciate your time. Go to climateviewer.com. Your time and insight, very valuable information. Oh, and my kids are here, so it's time to go. Everybody push that.
I got my kids are going to be here any moment too, so I totally get it.
Like, share, subscribe, notification button. Peace, love, and liberty. Speak out and take action.